There are about 20,000 city in the United States. El-Kader, Iowa, it is the only city that is named after an Arab Muslim hero. There is a story behind that. Emir Abdelkader was a young Algerian hero who fought French settler for almost 20 years in the mid 18th century. How did a small town in the northern east corner of Iowa get a name like El-Kader? A name like El-Kader could get you off an airplane or stop you at the airport, and now it is named after a town in northeastern Iowa. The story of El-Kader, the farm town in Iowa, started in 1845 when a British settler named Timothy Davis was looking for a site for his new settlement along the Turkey River in Iowa. Was in Iowa at the time. Davis had learned about the Amir El-Kader from American newspaper, which wrote an article about the Algerian hero, revolted against the French colonial rule in Algeria. So Davis simply named the new settlement after El-Kader. Art in a Park, an annual art festival in El-Kader, revealed for the first time Amir El-Kader sculpture. The festival was held in the Founder Park alongside the Turkey River in historical downtown El-Kader. I took my camera. I went to do a story about the Muslim hero who brought Islamic exotica to the American heartland. While some Americans tear down old historical statues for their dark racist history, here in El-Kader, Iowa, they have just erected a statue of a Muslim hero. I drove for hours through the cornfield where road sign changes from Mac Meals and Have It Your Way to Jesus Loves You. He is the only way. Finally, I got to El-Kader town, a small town with one street, one stoplight, one police car, one church, one theater. My first stop was at the city hall in the opera house to meet Josh Pope, El-Kader's mayor. You are the mayor of this town. How long you been a mayor?
8 years.
8 years. That's a lot of years. Is there a term, and how do you be a
No,
mayor?
actually, it's 4-year terms, and then you're elected every 4 years.
Wonderful. Tell us a little bit about this town.
Well, I think we're a lot like the Emir. We're vibrant. We're all about culture coexistence. You know, the Emir was so kind in the way he treated his prisoners, the way he treated humanity. We feel that's how El-Kader is.
Are people aware of the story, aware of the name, the people who live
Oh,
here?
definitely. I mean, you don't be named after the Emir Abdelkader without knowing the history behind how you got your name. I mean, that's the namesake. I think that people are very proud of being named after the Emir. If you walk into schools, there's a big picture of the Emir Abdelkader that students have drawn, and they teach it in the school, you know, the history. So I think that our town is very excited about being part of that culture. I think there's been some time where we've kind of lagged between our sister cities' relationship, and since I become mayor, we've grown that and strengthened it all the way up till 2020, obviously, COVID. Then, you know, we've kind of had a little distance there, but we're going to try to work on continuing to grow on that foundation of he rescued the Sisters of Mercy from being slaughtered. And we have a Mercy Hospital here in El-Kader, which was one of the original Sister Mercy hospitals.
Oh, really?
So that makes it really interesting, Amir. When I went over there, they welcomed me. They almost like rolled out the red carpet. I mean, they welcomed me.
You were going on an official trip.
Yes, and when I was walking around town, they had posters of the mayor of El-Kader.
No.
And people walking up and wanting, pictures, and I felt like a movie star.
In the Arab world, we love to put poster of our leaders.
Other leaders, yes.
Poster everywhere.
Every hotel there was a picture of the president. Yeah, exactly.
An Arab American, every American community here, they changed their name from Abdelkader to Jerry, whatever, because of what happened 9/11. I don't want to get too political here, but is there any dynamic there after 9/11?
I don't think here, and I think part of being in the Midwest, I don't think we get, a lot of that cultural resistance where if you go to the bigger cities, New York, Chicago, I think that's where you get more of the hatred between different cultures. Here in the Midwest, we're pretty simple people. We, we like our freedom. We like the land that we live on, and we generally like everyone. And I think that you'll find that when you come to an area like this, is you're so welcomed, and I hear that when we bring people from Algeria over. And they come and stay here. They keep telling me, they'll write me back, I can't believe how well we were welcomed, and people were so nice, and and the hospitality was wonderful. So
it's interesting. There is a statue are brought down in this country. Like of a racist hero.
And we have a statue downstairs that we're going to go put in our park.
Can you tell us a little bit about the area where it's going to be, by the river, is it?
Yes, it's going to be what we call our Founders Park. That was the area that was flooded in 2008. And all those homes we got bought out by FEMA, and then we made that a green space. So it's now called Founders Park. And so it's going to be down there, and we're hosting art in the park. And it's going to be down there. The statue of the Emir is going to be down in the park, and I understand they're going to move it in different areas. He's going to be moved kind of around throughout the day or throughout the weekend. Yeah. It's El-Kader. I always like to say that El-Kader is a leader like the Emir for others to follow.
Really?
Yeah.
And I mean, I was not knowing for that. I mean, you guys vote for Trump. I mean, this must be like a jewel of whatever. And then how do they let you get away? Next, I met Kathy Garms, the founder of El-Kader Education Project, full of energy, personality, loves to talk about her trips to Algeria and sister city, Mascara. Where the Muslim hero was born.
So I grew up in El-Kader, and I had heard about Emir Abdelkader, but I didn't know much about him. In 1984, we had a sister city connection with Mascara, Algeria. I was raising my kids. I really didn't know much about it at that time. I think there were people from El-Kader who went over to Algeria and vice versa, just once or twice. And then it was kind of forgotten. And then I was asked to help with a potluck for an Algerian coming to town in April 2007. I said, sure, but we have the inactive Sister City organization, so we really need to get that back in action again. And Ed Olson, who was the leader in making the Sister City connections, he said, Kathy, I'm too old, you do it. And so I did it, and I created a board. And so by the next May 2008, I was invited to speak at the Council of Nations, and the invitation came from the Emir Abdelkader Foundation as well. So what became of that is that when I got home from Algeria in May 2008, 2 weeks later, El-Kader had a massive flood. And where Founders Park is now, where the Art in the Park will be this weekend, all the houses were torn down. What's interesting is that just a month later, I had already planned to have a 2-day celebration for our Algerian El-Kader connection. So after the flood, it was 2 weeks. And I got a call from the Algerian embassy. And they said, we want to wire money in to help the flood victims. And I didn't know who it was coming from. I just knew the embassy had asked. So I said, sure. So we had it come into the bank, and I put it in the Clayton County Emergency Fund. So once I read John's book, I realized, oh my goodness, our namesake here in El-Kader, Iowa, actually has a global impact. I didn't know that before. And so after I did the book launch in El-Kader, then it was that next January that John and I were talking, and I said, you know, there's a lot of information in this, and we need to figure out how to get it in the hands of the people in El-Kader. Let's start with the young people. So we started an essay contest. And then after a couple of years, we broadened it to Iowa and then across the United States. And it has become my passion, and I can't stop.
The sister city in Algeria a few times, right?
Oh, yes, yes.
Tell us a little about your impression of the city. The people over there, are they aware of there is a city named after their hero?
Our host had private events, so I wasn't always at public events, so I really can't answer that.
Yeah, this is usually the case. When
Oh.
people visit, they are shielded from the street.
Everything I do here in El-Kader is public, so I wasn't used to everything being private. What I saw on my tours, I mean, we were treated like royal guests, okay? And what I liked about Mascara is someone went to great effort to make a 2-day tour. So if people would go there to tour, I would like to do that. And it goes from the Smala in the country, where Abdelkader, it's preserved now.
Mascara decided to have a statue from America or from, and they want to do the same, reciprocate. Which one you nominate?
Because Abdelkader is considered the George Washington of Algeria, perhaps I would choose George Washington.
Really? That's interesting.
Well,
We have a settlement here. Name it after a leader, an Arab Muslim leader. He was fighting the French settlers.
well, some people say that perhaps it was because where we live in this area, we were having our own fight against France. So we have a town across the Mississippi River, Peterson, Wisconsin.
What do you know the French name?
Yeah, right. So that's why they were already here.
Oh, I
And
see.
it wasn't always easy from what I understand,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
And so Timothy Davis could see a parallel about why El-Kader was named, except for the fact that the British publication was called Lido's Living Age. And so they would put the European information and news on the docket, and then it would come to the United States. So that's how Timothy Davis was following Abdelkader's exploits in fighting the French.
I see.
And he came down
And
on
he
the
hits the French anyway. British.
yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And so, because Abdelkader was very chivalrous in his fighting against the French,
yes.
I mean, he came down on the side of right. He was a very devout Muslim.
I see.
So, according to the laws of his religion, you would be good to others. You know, you don't kill them just because they're killing whatever. And so, one thing that I remembered was a prisoner swap. The French wanted one prisoner back, and he said, one person is as valuable as another. Why do you only want one?
Is there any Arab in this town? I mean, here is a town, an only town named after an Arab Muslim. Is there any Arab Muslim, any place?
Nobody's really practicing, no. So as long as I'm alive, I'm going to keep telling the Abdelkader story because I think it's really, really important.
Carter House Museum, where they have a collection from Algeria, costumes, dresses, artifacts. Kathy brought with her from Algeria and donated to the... How does house tell the story or relate to El-Kader legacy here in this town?
Well, El-Kader began in 1846, and as it became populated, the Carters moved to town. They were merchants who then built this house, two brothers. It was like a condominium, so there was two brothers with families living in the house. And over the years, it was passed on until in 1983, the Carter House Museum, the El-Kader Historical Society, bought the house and converted it into a museum. So now there are some original artifacts, but mostly donations. So we keep the interior of the house, try to keep it as historic as we can for that early time period. In the back we have what's called the annex, which is more modern history of El-Kader, and it even branches into even modern day and Algerian collections. So in the oldest part of the home, we'll see the historic way people lived, the furniture, the decor and such. When we get into the annex, we will see more of merchants downtown, displays of the barber shop. We'll see displays of the pharmacists. We'll see displays of different wars, World War I, World War II artifacts and clothing, and different collections, maybe historic tools. And so there is a section on the history and our relationship with the town being called Abdelkader, or El-Kader as we call it. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, yes.
And telling the story of El-Kader city, and also in that museum there is a section about Algeria. And Kathy, you have this collection at your home. This is through the years, you got this, and you thought you want to share this with the city. So tell us what do we have here?
About it. This is the gift that I was given on my first visit to Mascara City. That would be back in 2008. And this was, I was very surprised to receive this because we were taken to a store that had hundreds of these. And I just made a comment that this one was a work of art.
It's yours.
So yeah, exactly.
That's
so then at night.
Never. That's not the easiest way. Okay. Well, what do we got here?
Well, this is the book that started my interaction with Emir Abdelkader. John Kaiser wrote Commander of the Faithful, and this is in English, of course, which is the first of its kind. And it tells the story of Abdelkader from birth to death. And this tells about Abdelkader. This tells about what we offer from the Abdelkader Education Project. And a couple of years ago, at one of our forums in El-Kader, my friend Bonnie Bickle James did a wonderful talk on Abdelkader and how valuable this book is from many different perspectives. So we do have this here for people who want a synopsis of her talk, which was very, very well. This was one of my gifts from Chairman Ben Salah of the Council of Nations. It's antique Berber jewelry, and we have the porcelain vase that was given to me. And I like to have this here because this is from the north of Algeria. My interpreter gave me this handmade pottery, so you can see the distinction between the north and the south creation.
Art in the Park festivals, hundreds of people with their families wander around looking at arts, eating food, ice cream, listening to music. I spoke to artist Julianne Webb, the co-founder of Art in the Park.
So my name's Jillian. I'm one of the founders of Art in the Park, and I'm also a painter and photographer. When I moved to Iowa 10 years ago, I found this great community of artists, and we together decided, let's have an art festival in El-Kader. It would not have been possible without support from the entire community, from different aspects as far as volunteering and sponsorships. To get to be able to have this many people come to our small rural community for art has been just incredible. So here recently, this year especially, we have teamed up with two projects, the Abdelkader Education Project and also the I Am Your Protector Project, which is super exciting to have this monument here that reflects our namesake and be able to talk about, open up conversation and be able to talk about just the world as a whole in our little rural community and how we all interact together. So it's been beautiful to have this here. It's quite impressive. When I first even heard about this project, what blew me away is as an artist, it's also the interactive potential with this project itself, the having the second pedestal, putting them on the pedestal, being able to stand up and speak your truth or your story. We all have different stories, and I just love the ability to incorporate each individual that comes through that wants to be part of it. So I love the sculpture itself. I love even more the interactive aspect of it.
Though there was more people by the ice cream stand than by the Amir Sculpture, where I met Tamar Miller, a lovely Jewish woman from I Am Your Protector organization.
This sculpture was created by Joe Rigonella, who is an Italian sculptor who's called by the New York Times the Banksy of monuments, which means that he does kind of these pop-up sculptures, and this is lightweight. We gifted it to El-Kader because Abdelkader is the founder of this community, as you know. And the organization that commissioned this is out of Geneva by a woman named Dani Varadi, brilliant, gorgeous young woman who collected about 300 stories of contemporary protectors in the spirit of Abdelkader. But it begs the question, which you asked, Med, which is a really deep question, who would we like to put on a pedestal? You don't have a lot of Muslims in America on pedestals. You don't have a lot of undocumented dreamers on pedestals. So who should be here? I think you should be here. Maybe my grandmother should be here. All different kinds of people could be here. This Muslim woman who helped in Flint, Michigan, giving out water, and you can see all different stories that in the spirit of Abdelkader, we celebrate, we put people on pedestals who actually belong there. So these are 6 contemporary stories in the spirit of Abdelkader. People who have crossed borders, who have thought about conflict, who have thought about other people other than their own ethnic and religious background. So refugees is a conversation that we're having globally. There are millions and millions and millions of people around the world. But here are refugees rescuing Italians after the earthquake. Here we have a dreamer in Houston, Texas, who saved lives. He came from Mexico when his parents brought him. He was 6 years old. He's a dreamer now. Should he stay in America? That's a question that we have publicly. Here's an undocumented man who saved, at great peril, an abducted girl. He's an undocumented worker. What should we do? How do we speak about him? How do we honor him? And is there a pedestal for him in the United States? This is an African-American man who saved people in Texas during Hurricane Harvey. And here are Jewish patrol in the London mosques in 2013 when there was a lot of pressure against Muslims in London itself. So it's a beautiful initiative. This is a lovely young woman, 24 years old, who organized Muslim organizations to help the Flint, Michigan, to have clean water. So these are just 6 stories of hundreds and hundreds of stories of protectors that we have around the world, and we want to create pedestals for them too.
At the Art in the Park, a few Algerian visitors came all the way from Algeria to see their Algerian hero being honored thousands of miles from their home. I asked him about what of naming a town in America after an Algerian hero.
I'm Amir, from the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, Minnesota. And we here as Algerians basically connecting with Emir Abdelkader and his value in the United States.
Fauzi, that he doesn't speak English, he just came all the way from Algeria. A few of his friends told him about the American town that named after the Emir, and he came to see it. And there is, back home, people are aware of this story. No, just if they seen it on YouTube or social media. Very few will know about it. At Art in a Park, we met a young father and his daughter, and she seems she rather to be somewhere else. And we talked to him about Art in a Park and the story of El-Kader and how this town was named after the Muslim hero.
Well, my name is Jacob Peterson, and this is my daughter May. She is 4 years old, and we are here because, well, my wife and her mom wanted to come check out some art, and we are here on this lovely Saturday to check her out.
You know, that city was named after an Arab Muslim leader in 1860
I did not know
when it
that.
was just a settlement.
No, I did
Really?
not. No.
You never heard of this story before?
No.
Maybe ask your daughter. Maybe she did hear about it.
Did you know about it?
Finally, I talked to a man in a wheelchair, Shad Kramer, who had been El-Kader's postmaster for more than 30 years. As a Native American, what does he think of a British settler naming his town after a Muslim who fought the French settler in Algeria for years?
I'm 85 and I've forgotten a lot of things, and my reading skills aren't the best now, so I don't. I haven't heard anything any the other way.
Through the 3 days we spent at El-Kader city, everywhere we go, the pork are served. Every meal, every item, every dish has some pork of some sort. We both almost starved, so we stopped at Gear Coffee House, a place with great vibes and the best espresso I've ever had.
And before we opened, I had a chance to travel to Italy to visit a friend of mine played Italian pro hockey. While I was there, I hooked up with a local espresso shop, and the proprietor of that shop taught me about how to roast espresso properly. And he was explaining that most American versions of espresso are not real espresso because they don't have the Robusta bean.
I asked Mike what he think of living in a town named after an Arab Muslim leader, El-Kader. My distant family is Irish, and we know oppression. We know the British oppression, and living in a town named after a freedom fighter like El-Kader, that is great. It was a lovely 3 days with lovely people, a small town in the corner of northeastern Iowa in the middle of nowhere, named after a Muslim who fought the French settlers more than 170 years ago in Algeria.
ناسي ما صارون هذه مدة نساوني ظنيت خفلوا قلوبهم يا حسرة مين كان كل ربيع بنواره وحنا نتودوا كيوس العزيدة زاروا غير انا محايني ناسي ما زاروا. Thank you.